What up, y'all? I'm Steve with Elev8, and today we got a really cool Elevated 8 with Eli Mazet. Man, if you don't know about this guy, you're living under a rock. Anyways, I'd like to point out really quickly, we got a real cool thing, Elev8 Dolls, which is our brand ambassador program. Check it out. It's real cool. You can earn some credits and whatnot. As well as we got a real cool thing called Elev8 Veterans. It's a 501c3 where you get to help reacclimate and rehabilitate some war veterans back into society. Anyways, let's roll on to this interview. All right, y'all. We got Eli Mazet here today. And I want to say thanks a lot for joining us on this Elevated 8. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Every day is a good day for me. I'm living the dream.
Yeah, it feels that way, right? Like to get to make art and make money at it.
Yeah, it really is. It's just it's a fun process. And for 3,000 years, people have been blowing glass. And I tell people a lot of times, imagine how many dreams were started for 3,000 years just watching the glass flow and doing all that. And if you think about it, it's pretty special to think that how many dreams glass has started in the civilization and the history of man.
You know, I've never really thought about like the dreams that were started from it, but that's it. You see the glass and you start dreaming about it, and then you're like, how can I do it? And
Yeah.
I'm sure that's how you got here.
Yeah, and I learned a lot, and we'll go over that some more. I learned a lot about the actual science of dreaming, and it's all connected to glass. So all these things that we do every day, and even every time you dream, it's super connected to glass, and we'll get into that more, I'm sure.
I love it. So I guess we'll start out. How did you get into glass blowing?
Well, you know, my older brother was a pottery teacher here in Eugene, and he got a job. Of course, you know, art's always being shut down in school for budget. And so he got a job at the actual the employment center, and got a job, which is America's really first glass bong company here in Eugene, Oregon.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I started watching my brother, and like we were saying earlier, a dream started. I watched somebody melting glass. I watched the formation being changed from this to that. And I learned to make that formation, that it all actually started off in your head. And it wasn't something where you just went over to the torch and you made something. No, there was a process of this imagination and this dream state that would ultimately bring forward in your hands to create this reality of, let's say, maybe like any kind of object that you had in your mind. And I thought it was so cool to be able to take a picture out of my mind and put it into a physical reality where people were grabbing it and touching. I mean, they're literally holding on to your dreams.
That's neat how you're putting that. It's like, yeah, that's super awesome. Being able to take something up in here and hand it to somebody, because there's no other way to transfer the vision. You can do words kind of, but
right,
it's a three-dimensional idea.
Yeah, and it really is. And so, yeah, what I learned, you know, was I got into glass, and there was a guy named Bob Snodgrass down the street. This was in 1996, 97. And I learned about this guy, Bob Snodgrass, who helped and started the cannabis glass pipe, the movement. And I thought it was so cool. I only lived like 10 blocks from him. And so I don't think it was a coincidence. I think that it was that all the stuff that I'm doing was meant to be.
So is that when you started? Was it 96?
I started in 97 taking classes, watching my brother. I was actually apprenticing to be at the time a tattoo artist from my other brother. And I was literally just like, no kidding, in my like first couple months, of going into tattooing. I liked to tattoo. I thought it was fascinating that you could run your own business and be this artist. Both of my brothers were artists. I was always kind of the guy that was the manager, or I worked at UPS for 8 years. And so when I saw these guys making money on doing what they love to do, it was very contagious. And so my older brother got the job at JBD and he over to watch a few guys blow glass. And I literally fell in love. In fact, I watched them blow glass, me and my younger brother, and we immediately went out. I thought I could do it for sure. I was like, dude, I'm doing this. This
it looks easy.
They make it look easy, you know? And so we went out and bought all this stuff and got it home, and I couldn't do it. And I had this big sense of failure. You know, I felt so kind of almost, I was humbled right away and just realized, like, dude, this is going to take work. And that was the start of who I am.
You met the glass gods, and that's a really neat thing you said. Like, you got all the stuff, you thought it was easy, and then it was hit with failure. But it's only failure if you gave up. You didn't give up. And I feel like glass happens a lot like that, where you hit something and you fail.
Right. And that's literally what it was. I failed. But the deal is, I loved to watch it move. I loved it so much that I guess you could say I found my calling and my passion. And I knew, I almost wanted to break down and cry, because it was even my whole life has been like, this is a real thing. And it was the start of my life. And what I've got today is really a miracle. And it was because I failed over and over and over again. It's kind of like the memes you see and all that stuff, what it really takes to be good at something. And this was the beginning of that process that made me, in every medium and everything I did, understand what it took to really be good at something.
It takes all of you to be good.
It really does.
Man, that's
as an artist, I get, you know, I get really emotional about this stuff, mainly because, and we'll go into this as we get there, because of the process, it's turned me also into being more spiritual and more understanding about the whole universe. Glass has transformed me. I always tell people I shaped the glass and then it shaped me.
Yeah,
and it
like
really
that.
did in all kinds of aspects. So yeah, I'm really grateful for this opportunity in this life.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's that's crazy. You nailed it there. That you shape glass, but glass shapes you. It humbles you. It in so many things. I think we just should all do it.
Yeah, I mean, I learned how to run a business. I put myself through college. I learned how to do taxes. I learned how to communicate with hundreds of shops and find out how to, have a relationship so that I could keep selling my stuff. I learned how to have a few employees, how to teach people how to blow glass. I learned all kinds of chemistry and science and history. I learned so many things. It was like an onion. I just kept peeling back the layers and peeling them. And glass, they say, is there a master for glass? Well, that's why they don't teach it in school. And to get your master's, you couldn't get your master's in glass. There's so many things and all different kinds of these runoffs of endless information that to have all that and absorb it in one lifetime would literally be impossible.
Yeah. You can only really pick one path of the glass pie to go down.
Right.
Yeah, that's neat. What items did you start out with blowing glass when you first started?
Say that again?
What items did you start out blowing with glass? Was it just pipes? Were they pendants? Were they shot glasses? I know you do a lot of shot glasses now.
Yeah. Well, and I had a shot glass collection when I was a kid. So initially for many years, I didn't say this. It's okay to say this now, but for my first 15 years, I never told people this, but I'm really open about it now. I was smoking weed here in Eugene. Me and my brother sold a lot of weed. And of course, we bought weed and we were captivated with the weed scene. And someone passed around this pipe. And I grabbed the pipe and I looked at it, and I literally had the very first, like, this feeling of this an adrenaline rush almost. And I looked at the pipe and I asked the guy, dude, I'll trade you for this. He traded it to me and I kept that thing. And to this day, I can still remember the feeling that I got from just holding it and looking at it. So I got into glass initially from weed, and my brother ended up teaching me. I knew right away, even in the 1999, early 2000s, all my friends were selling weed. In fact, everybody wanted to sell weed. And I looked at the glass pipe. I had the passion for it, but I also started to kind of evaluate the road that I was going to lead and travel down, which was everybody in my town made and grew weed. I'm like, dude, I'm going to be the guy that makes the pipe. Everybody's going to want these. There's so many people that smoke weed. I can sell these to my friends and all my friends in high school and college. And I thought, I'm going to go down that road. And so I got into glass. My house actually, this is a crazy, but my house burnt down, and it wasn't
Holy
because
shit.
of glass. I had an electrical fire. When I was younger, I worked at UPS. So I had a house that was built for me. While I was with my ex-wife at the time, and they messed up the circuit breakers. They overloaded it. I had this fire. So we moved in with her parents, and I started making pipes, but her parents would come out and get upset for me making pipes. And so I had traveled around when I was a kid. My dad was in the military. And so I traveled around a lot when I was a kid overseas. And my parents would always buy little knickknacks. Mm-hmm. I was on the phone one day. My brother had given me a Homer Hoyt book, which was 63 lessons on how to blow glass. It was my first introduction into glass, written by a scientific glass blower from NASA. And I was actually making glass. I was smoking weed, and I was on the phone, and I looked back, and I had a rod in my hand, and holy shit, something happened, and it drooped down, and I looked at it, and I said, holy shit, that looks like a seahorse. And no kidding, I started thinking, oh, there's a seahorse in the book. Like, I could redo this and make seahorses. And I had been making pipes and little marbles and little things like that for about 6 months. And I got it kind of caught in this rut where I was living at her parents'. And I said, okay, I'm going to make 100 seahorses, and I'm going to go to the coast of Oregon, and I'm going to go and see if I can sell these things. I went over there, and the first shop that I hit bought every single one.
Gangster.
And it was one of Dale Chihuli's friends that owned the shop.
Holy shit.
So that was kind of my start on and this guy, his name was Dennis Schmidt. He owned Pyromania. He owned 3 stores at the time that were soft glass blowing stores that would make like floats and bowls and vases. Mm-hmm. And he encouraged me to start a line of products. He said, can you make a frog? He says, this guy here that makes lizards, he doesn't make them anymore. Can you make lizards? I went home. I studied that book. I started making all my first things, and I was getting paid for them. My first year, he bought about $50,000 worth of glass from me and my brothers. It's what got us started in this dream.
That's so cool, man. That's beautiful to find that path almost by accident, by hanging out there. That's so cool. Did you have a mentor while you started blowing glass? I mean, there really wasn't. You were so early. You were working with JBD.
Well, I was so lucky because there were so many glass blowers in my town, and JBD had kind of been going for some years when I got into it. So the Eugene Glass School was started here. And it was one of the very first lamp working glass schools in the country. And the Eugene Glass School would put on different events every year, different competitions. They had one of the biggest, which was Glasscraft or Dave Winship back then.
Yep, I remember.
And, I had a mentor. His name was Dave Winship.
Wow.
And I kind of got neat. Not that he was like a hardcore glass blower. In fact, he didn't even really blow glass. He did some other stuff. But then I also had Bob Snodgrass as an early mentor, and a couple other glass blowers that I would go to different people's houses. I would meet people at Air Gas. But I think really the most successful part that I had was that book, which was the Homer Hoyt book, 63 Lessons in Glass, and a multitude of information that was never ending. Even to this day, I can go into that book 25 years later and look and find something in there that I might have missed.
That's awesome. So with that said, I think any blower that really takes this interesting probably should go get that Homer Hoyt book and add it to their collection.
It's a crazy story. I don't know if you know this, but I bought the rights to that book about 2 years ago. It's considered the Bible of glass. Yeah. And it was kind of going kind of underground or downhill. No one picked it up like a torch, in the Olympics and wanted to carry that thing and I had probably sold more books than anybody, because right away within my first 2 years, Bob Snodgrass brought me out to one of the biggest glass shows in the world. And almost immediately within a few years of being there, they made me and my older brother teachers at the show, which was 250 classes in Las Vegas, the oldest glass show in the country. And that's just another story on how I was able, before social media, before Instagram, Facebook, all this stuff, I was able to get my name out there to the masses immediately through a few big shows.
Mm-hmm. Wow, man, that's really difficult, because you have to get out in your car, you have to go meet the places, you have to get to the shows, hope that people come there, and it was all just starting then. So, man, that's killer. I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, it was like I said, it wasn't a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence anymore. I kind of believe in, almost more of the life of a Buddhist monk. I believe in Buddhism and the oldest, spirituality, universal kind of code in the world. And this last thing has a lot to do with Buddhism.
Yeah, it's, I'm not too religious, but I do get the enlightenment, and you reaching glass just, I think, reaches yourself into the humbleness comes, which I think is enlightenment.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's the thing. It just, doing glass affects you in so many different ways that you start to dream all the time, because once again, like we were saying earlier, you have to visualize what you're going to make. I always tell people, nobody's going to hand you your dream on a silver platter. It's not weed. It's not LSD. It's you who are responsible for your success. So what do you have to do?
100%.
You have to come up with something. It's your responsibility. Come up with something. Be creative. Think about something. Use your imagination and come up with something. And that's what you have to do in your life for your goals and dreams. And so what I found out is that a bodybuilder could just pump up and he'd grow this huge muscle. With a glass blower or an artist, they're doing that with their pineal gland, always every day visualizing what they're doing. And so what ends up happening, what do they say? Practice makes perfect. So what ends up happening is you start to visualize all the time, and that goes into your life. You have this physical object that's in your mind and you create it. Wow, there it is, reality. I have a marble. Well, I tell people, do that with your life. What do you want? When you can have anything you want. You visualize it, you dream it, and it comes to you. You can have anything you want. I really believe that.
You do have to go out there and work its ass off, though. You have to farm that field.
You're right. And you have to put in the work on the torch as far as, you know, getting your skills down. But once you get your basic fundamentals in your formation, you're always learning new little tricks, but you start to become kind of a glass wizard when it comes to just making stuff. Oh, I got this. Oh, here's this, here's that. And really, going back to how I got started, I was really intrigued by Walt Disney glassblowers. And I didn't mention maybe my biggest mentor that I had out of all of them, which I feel bad, so I got to mention him. His name was Lewis Wilson. He's in the actual Homer Hook Boy, and he was a Walt Disney glass blower. And so I just really wanted to make everything. I didn't want to make just pipes. In fact, in early 2000s, I had a lot of glass blowers around me, so I decided that I needed to separate myself from the pack. I knew right away as an artist, that's what you did. You tried to separate. I mean, we all want to be so much alike, and we're all the same. We want to blow glass. We want to use the same colors. We use the same tools, but also we have to separate ourselves to make us unique. And I knew right away that everybody in my town wanted to make pipes. So I started making pigs and dolphins and pizza and pencils. And I mean, we made all roses and just everything, you know. So it was just really cool, gratifying thing for someone to come up and say, hey, can you make my wiener dog? And I felt like how I used to tell people and other glass blowers was there's more Christians than there are weed smokers. So you can make hummingbirds and little angels and make so many things that you're really focusing on. And this was way before where we're at to now as with lamp working. And so, you know, I really was, I gotta say, you know, I don't think I've ever said this, but I was one of the very first guys in the United States in the glass pipe industry to transform spoons into animals and sculptures. In fact, I can't think of anybody, and this isn't an ego thing. This is actually something I'm very, very proud of. I can't think of anybody who had more of an impact on glass spoon sculptures into animals in the late 1990s and early 2000s than I did.
Yeah,
I live right down the street from Snodgrass.
Yeah, and I don't doubt it, because right then it was only a simple pipe, and you were slowly experimenting out. And just like you went from, okay, I'm looking at this, I need to become something besides just a weed seller. And you found your niche there. And then as the glass blowers did, you found your next niche. I'm still here.
We still got you. Yeah, it's just calling in. I'm just going to decline it. There we go.
All right.
There we go. Cool.
Yeah. So, that's really neat. I'd like to point that out is about finding your own individuality, being a part of the pack to develop the skills and get all that. And then refinding you later. And you did that twice. And I don't even know how many more times you changed your like feeling from a weed seller to a pipe maker to animal pipes, and now you're doing shot glasses and everything else, I assume.
Right. I wrote 2 books. They're the 2 of the #1 best-selling glass books of all time.
And what are those books?
And then so
we can put it up. What are the books so we can put it up here?
Yeah, my first book was called The Contemporary Shot Glass, and that was the history of the shot glass. I had 45 of the #1 glass lamp workers in the United States make a glass and then help tell the story of the history of the shot glass. Shit. Yeah, so and that's a really good book. You can get it at americanshotglass.com. And then my second book, which came out about 5 years later, was called The American Shot Glass. In fact, I never thought that I would probably do another shot glass book, but I came across one of the biggest American glass stories never told. And what that was, I'm going to give you a quick little breakdown on it because it's a big story. I was doing a lot of research, and in the middle of my first book, I didn't know how all these shot glasses were at every gas station, every liquor store, at the mall, at all these tourist places. You would run into shot glasses with all these little labels on them.
Yeah.
And I started to wonder, like, how are they making all of these glasses? I was with the owner of North Star. Yeah, I was with the owner of North Star, and he didn't know either. I thought that was fascinating that the owner of North Star didn't even know. I asked my teacher, Lewis Wilson. He didn't know. So I started to go on this kind of research and exploration, and I found out about this machine that would create in 1905. A man built a machine, and you won't find the history books. He built a machine that was 10,000 parts, and in 1905,
That's
all
crazy.
the parts on the machine were handmade. Okay, my second book, The American Shot Glass. The machine would make 243 glass objects. It was a beer bottle machine initially. It would make 243 glass objects every
Different
minute.
objects.
Different objects. That's 243 every minute. That's 14,580 glass objects every day.
Holy mackerels.
It was America. I found out all this. Nobody knew this. Okay, I've got one of, not just a glass story. I've got one of the best American stories for America, for the world. The machine was America's very first multinational corporation. They ended up
That's
building.
crazy.
Yeah, they ended up building 17 machines. They ended up building 17 machines, and eventually the machine would make 500,000 glass objects every 24 hours. Every light bulb, every beaker. In fact, I found out one of the very first licensees of the machine was a man named Edward Booz, and he was a Pennsylvania distiller. So the booze bottle,
Holy shit.
which is a huge argument. If you go Google it or if you're online, there'll be all kinds of reason why they say it was called a booze bottle. But I'm the one that defined that in America. I'm the one that's actually, I'm not. I'm the one that brought it out to people to let them know.
You gathered the research.
Guy that I researched that actually found that, who was a great professor. Let me just, one more little tidbit of information.
I love it.
It shut down 300 glass factories in America. Imagine if you had a
the
machine.
one machine did.
Yeah, well, they ended up making 17 machines by 1926, and then now there's thousands of those machines. They make 5 million glass objects every hour. So imagine this.
Holy shit.
They never made a pipe machine. I'm also the one that defined why we're making pipes today. We're only making pipes because they never made a pipe machine. After the guy made the machine, he went to the Ball Brothers, he went to the Masons, he went to Heinz ketchup. He showed the ketchup industry, the distillery industry, the juice industry. He made them a machine for the first time so that they could fill 14,000 bottles a day. It was a glass blower who automated. The machine was built on the oldest glass street in America. It was called Libby Street. Today it's called Wall Street.
No fucking way.
The oldest glass street in America today is called Wall Street. I have the evidence. I have the research, and it's the #1 glass story. Maybe this huge story that I didn't put in my book. I'm pretty sure that they killed the guy who made the machine. His name was Michael Owens. I'm the first one to ever contest that this is the biggest American conspiracy ever to be in America.
Damn, that shit is crazy. That is so neat that you found that information. Like, nobody would know that. I would have never dreamt that. I can't believe how lucky I am today to have scored this interview with you to get this information. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, it is super cool.
Wow.
It's
Like,
it's 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 groundbreaking information that was a spill off of information. It's I was doing a documentary on myself. I was over at Bob Snodgrass's house, and I'm sitting there doing a documentary on myself. I did a documentary, a film on how to make shot glasses, and then I had the history of the shot glass in the film. Snodgrass was in the film, and while I'm making this, it felt like I got hit by a dumbbell. And I said to myself, here I am making a documentary about myself, and no one's ever made one about Snodgrass. And that's when the next conversation, that's when I came up with making and hiring a director and a filmmaker. And that's when I went on a journey and a mission, and I learned how to make films, making this film with my buddy. I was the story writer, the transportation coordinator, the producer. I hired I got an investor, and it's actually a whole bunch of things that we did, but we made the original, the number one glass documentary ever made in glass. It's called pipetownusa.com. It's called Pipetown USA, 16 glass blowers. It went to 20 film festivals. It won 10 major awards. We got second place next to the Ice-T documentary.
holy shit, man.
We
You've done
won
a lot of
Seattle.
stuff.
Yeah, we got really lucky and a lot of hard work with it. But I'm glad I can be able to come on to this interview so that people can go and see this story, see this information that is slowly growing. It's not one push of a button for your career. Glass, and it's one push of a button and everybody knows you. Well, it's the same with a book and a movie. Unless you're like CBS or NBC or Fox or HBO or Cinemax or Netflix, for a guy that's just doing this as an individual, maker, it's guys like you guys. That's why I'm so appreciative to be on here, that help me generate, this traveling transmitting this information to everybody so that they can tell everybody else about this really cool, these projects.
Yeah, I'm really, I don't know what I'm going to give you because I'm so small compared to you, but hopefully it gives a little bit, man. Like, just getting to know this story, getting to know you here I would have never dreamt this like this.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And a lot of people, they don't know about it. And so I like I said, again, I've tried to articulate, and that's one thing that I've always been good at, was being able to articulate a message through words so that people could better understand the glass industry. And I feel like I was actually also put into this process. One of my friend's teachers, one time when I was talking to him, one of my teacher's good friends, I was at the shop watching them blow glass, and my teacher's friend says to me, well, Dennis doesn't blow glass anymore. He makes glass blowers. And I was like, he makes glass blowers. I had never thought about that. And so I knew right away that one of my missions in life was to make glass blowers and to help start and bring back the power of glass and what it does. So you can imagine, if the machine shut down 300 glass shops, if no one needed to make ketchup bottles, light bulbs, medicine bottles, liquor bottles, all this stuff, if nobody could make this stuff, well, there wasn't as big as creative process going on in the world. It shut down, that machine shut down the creative process. Bob Snodgrass is the one that brought back, with guys like Dale Chihuly and Harvey Littleton, brought back the glass dream to civilization, to humans, to all of us, where I start crying about stuff because that was brought back. If it wasn't for Snodgrass, people wouldn't be making pendants and marbles today, more than likely. They never made a pipe machine. And so he found this niche market on how to bring glass back. And so we're just we're so lucky for the turn of events for mankind, for people around the world to be able to go back and do glass again.
Right. Man, you're just bringing so much enlightenment to this whole industry and everything. And again, the information's not out there. And yeah, that shit is crazy. Like,
yeah, smoke another bowl and trip out on that, you know?
yeah, it's like until you put it in the story form and lay it out there, you don't realize the creativity. And then again, what a machine did to, I mean, it was creativity as well, but then it took a whole nother creation and just shoved it aside until some guy wanted to make a pipe for cannabis.
Right. And that really brought back the studio movement for lamp working. And of course, we all know Dale Chihuly. He's an icon, and he's also accredited to bringing back really the soft glass studio and the movement in there. And you know what, Chihuly? I don't think he even knows. Here you have this glass god that I don't even think that he knows the real reason he was able to bring back glass in America. I'm hoping to tell him and define him one day to his face. You know,
that's cool. And that's it. Like, you need researchers out there, which you are and have become. And then because you're living your life in a little perspective and you can't see outside what you've done or not done or who's done anything.
You know, and I'm backed by the Corning Museum. The Corning Museum, I have 2 librarians that I work with there that help me get a lot of information. Okay, I also worked with the Toledo, it's the Toledo, Ohio. It's actually an art center. It's a museum. So the Toledo, Ohio Museum. And then I also worked with the Canada Center, which is the University of Toledo. So all this stuff that I did. And then once again, I also worked with the guy who did the book on Edison. He did the book on Ford, on Heinz, you know, on all kinds of biographies that he wrote on the great American artists. And he had happened to just do one on Michael Owens and the Owens machine. And that's how I was able to get a lot of this information that I'm putting out there. You know, I don't do things for reasons. There's a lot of people that go out there and they say, oh, I should do this for this reason. Oh, I never did things for reasons. I did them because of my results. I would have a result in something. And then I knew if I had that result and I actually had it on paper, that I could convince somebody that I had the proof to go and do this. And so a lot of my success has been other people helping me by seeing the results that I had. Okay, I believe in this guy. A lot of people think it's bullshit initially until you actually have like results from the bullshit. And a lot of us people, and that's what reasons are. Reasons are really bullshit. And so why do I say that? Because I learned this by doing glass. If you want to get ahead, not just in glass, in your life, look at the results that you have with, you know, your wife, or the results you have with good friends, or maybe other results that give you reasons to do things.
Huh. It's almost like reverse engineering it.
Exactly.
Right. I like that. Where do you get the inspiration for your creativity in glass?
You know, I think inspiration comes from all over the place. I studied the crystal radio. I study all kinds of things in glass. We'll go back also, and I'm going to tell you where I get the inspiration. I study Buddhism. I studied and wrote an article. I also have a Facebook page called Glass Pod, where I work with different researchers in glass and librarians. I just wrote an article and brought to the industry the very first manual written in glass. And what gave me the inspiration for that? I bought the manual in our era for glass, the Homer Hoyt book. And when I bought that, I said, I wonder what the first manual in glass was. And I was studying with and researching with a librarian from the Corning Museum. And she told me about these cuneiform tablets, 3,000-year-old stone tablets with a glass manual on it to blow glass. They would sacrifice a sheep. They would pour out little drinks to the gods, and they would put little gods on their kiln. They would burn juniper. It was 3,000-year-old tablet before Moses's tablets. So going back to where do I get the inspiration? I get the inspiration, I think, from the universe. I mean, I have other people that I've been inspired by, but I think the biggest inspiration is if you ever have studied the very first radio known to man. This is going to sound a little crazy. The very first radio known to man was called the crystal radio. And I was studying organic glass crystals. When you would turn the dial, the little crystal in there goes like that. It actually turns, and that's what picks up different frequencies.
All right.
And so how did we transmit the very first message, which was actually Tesla, who transmitted the very first message into space? That being said, it was through a crystal, and you transmit it through electrons and protons. And so that's actually how you receive the radio into your home. The very first radios, they're done differently now because of technology. But what am I saying? This leads back to, where do I get my information? Well, in your head, behind your two eyes, you might have seen and heard of the Eye of Ra. And the Eye of Ra, was that one eye. Well, the Eye of Ra stands for your third eye. It's a 3,000-year-old story. We know now, because of technology, that you have these crystals that are in your third eye. They're actually DMT crystals and zirconium crystals, and you have what's called piezoelectricity in there. So you can picture your mom's face, you can picture your dad's face, but you cannot lock it now, because I'm really imagining things all the time. I can actually picture you, Steve, melting right now. And as you're melting, you're turning into flashing rainbow colors. And then you turn into a pizza over that table and you drip everywhere. I can see that in my mind, but I can't lock it in. That's all going on in those crystals that are behind your two eyes, your third eye, your imagination. They'll tell you about your heart. They'll tell you about your kidneys. They'll tell you about your organs. They'll tell you about everything. But did they ever really tell you what's making all the images in your head? No, it's a secret, because that's the real source of life. That's how you are inspired. There's messages coming from somewhere. You could try to theorize what God is, but you also could theorize, where do thoughts come from? Thoughts come from different frequencies from the universe, and that's how me and you got together. Or, you get these ideas. Yes, there's some kind of messages coming from each other, because we actually send each other messages, not even knowing it. You were getting prepared for this interview, and so was I. And I was actually thinking about you guys, and I was subconsciously sending you guys messages about, okay, I hope this gets hooked up right on Zoom, and this and that. And those little things that we were thinking were actually really true. They weren't a coincidence.
Yeah, man, that's pretty deep stuff there, Eli. Really deep stuff. I like it. Do you have a preferred style or technique that you like to use now?
I mainly am making a lot of shot glasses. I'm the only shot glass maker in the world, actually does it on an everyday basis, that just makes shot glasses. I'm also the only one, let's say, if you go to Glass Vegas or Champs or any show in the world, I'm the only guy there tapping into hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm the only one actually there that you'll find super, super different. So you can go around a pipe show or any other show, and I'm the only shot glass maker. And I only say that not as an ego thing, but as a way to say that I did it again. I found a way to separate myself from everybody. And now, in the last 10 years, from writing these books, from teaching shot glasses, the very first shot glass, the very first I was one of actually, there's only one other guy even in the world who wrote a shot glass book before me. He wasn't a glass blower. What I'm saying is that I found my own identity. And I guess you could say it's so unique that, I mean, other people are starting to make shot glasses and able to really make a good living on it. And I guess that's what I try to inspire. And in my mind, I wonder how I'm going to do it again. When everybody starts making shot glasses, I have a subconscious that says, okay, once everybody starts doing that, do I want to be the #1 shot glass maker? No, I want to go on to something else, and I want to create or maybe tap into something else. I don't know what it is yet, but it's going to be something in the next 20 years.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a fire starter rather than just where you just
and
fire.
You know what? I am, but I'm also just the regular average guy. Everything has just been nonstop thinking about glass since I've got into it. Wouldn't say that I had any talent. It was kind of like
I'm going to disagree. Earlier. I'm going to disagree with you, Eli. I got to disagree. I think what you possess that a lot of people don't is massive amounts of drive. Everybody can think of shit. How good they can think are different. But taking that thought process and going out there, writing a book, that's gangster. That's hard. You could say, oh, I'm just a glass blower. I'm not going to write.
Right.
And not do it. So I think you're such a hard worker. I got to imagine you're working probably 12 hours a day, whatever it is.
I've been working 12 hours a day for almost, I mean, I don't, in the 25 years I've been doing glass. Well, people call me in the industry. They really do. They call me the hardest working man in glass. And I'm really proud to say that. Yeah.
It shows. You're doing everything. You're on the torch all the time. You're creating books. You're doing research. Like you're holy shit. I didn't realize how wonderful you are to the industry.
The other thing really is that I have two brothers, an older brother and a younger brother. They've also worked their ass off to help all of us to get where we were. They knew that I was kind of going to be somewhat of a little bit of the leader and that I was going to immerse myself in a little bit deeper. That doesn't mean I'm extra special. My brother's an avid fisherman, and my other brother is a big, huge, he's a famous potter besides a famous glass blower. He makes some of the best pottery in the country besides glass. So both of my brothers are super, super talented. I just decided to go and throw all the chips on the table for glass.
Oh yeah,
glass
man.
Chips.
I love it, man. What's your favorite items to blow? Pipes, rigs, pendants, shot glasses?
I never made I've made oil rigs that I've collabed on with. The oil rig is kind of the last thing that I'm even interested in. And I guess it's because I'm not the biggest oil smoker at all. I don't smoke oil anymore. I used to. And then
me either, brother.
Yeah, I'll hit an oil vape pen once in a while. I smoke just a little bit of weed. In fact, in the last 20 days, I don't smoke any weed. Like today was one of the first days I just took a few hits here and there. And that's only because somebody just dropped off like a quarter pound to me for a fucking, that I traded for a torch, or I probably wouldn't even have smoked it, but it's this supreme shit. And then, so yeah, I guess I really like to make shot glasses, marbles, and sculpture. I just really enjoy coming up. You can imagine. So this is a great little topic for us because of the machine making 5 million shot glasses every single hour. And since 1905, every design has been done in the pipe. Every design has been done almost in the oil rig now. Every design's been done in the marble, but they forgot the shot glass. And so I've been creating the very first designs ever in shot glasses. Me and my older, we also did some of the, a lot of times people will say, oh, Salt was the first to do the monster. Well, I got to tell you, he wasn't. There was a guy named Merck, and there was a guy named Josh Mazet, and there was a guy named Gregory Paul Shire. I was here from the get-go, and all of these guys were making monsters too. And but I definitely was, on my brothers to do like the very first monster marble, the very first monster shot glass. That was from us. I feel confident in saying that. And it's not to say that I did it first. I'm trying to articulate how much of an impact you can have on something if you just go for it, and put in the work. Everything's possible, and
But you said it. You gotta put in the work. You gotta say, fuck, I'm gonna fail at this, and get up and get up and get up. And like you said, hardest working guy in the industry. You're not doing 8-hour days and saying pack up 10 hours. It's constant. You're living you. And that's what I'd like to point out is, Confucius said, if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. So while you're putting in 12 hours a day, you're not working, you're living your life. And I wish we could all do that.
And I am. I mean, yesterday, no shit, I got here at 6 a.m. and I didn't leave till 8:45 at night. And I wasn't necessarily on the torch every second, but I also do, like I said, I write articles on all kinds of things. I wrote articles on the very first guy who created clear glass, who invented clear glass. I did an article on the guy, Frederick Otto Schott, who made the very first borosilicate glass. I've done all kinds of different articles and, other things that would be involved with glass so that I could rest my eyes maybe after working 10 hours on the torch, because it's actually a really super probably unhealthy thing for your eyes to blow glass that often.
Yeah, I know. I didn't really think about it, but they say, the UV and whatnot, and we have protection. But I met an underwater welder, and he had really got his eyes fucked up because same thing. You're about 2 feet focused on an object for 8 hours, and that constant focus is not good for your eyeballs. And as a blower, I mean, what are you doing? Focusing between this and this?
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny that you say that, because that's what my brother said the worst thing was just focusing like that. That's why my brother used to walk outside the studio and he'd look way into the mountains for like 20 minutes and then he'd come back and blow glass.
So that's a great point. I think we just stumbled across for blowers out there. Take a break. Go out there, enjoy your scenes around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Take a break. And just like there's stretches for your neck, stretch it. There's actually eye stretches. Now you don't want to do it too hard. You can strain your eyes, but you look out of the corner of your eye and you look to the right. You can feel the tension on your eyes. And then you look to the other side and then you look up and then you look down. You have, 10% or your eyes, 80% water. I also helped formulate, and kind of help come up with the very first dichroic lenses for borosilicate glass. I worked with Philips and CBS, which is Coatings by Sandberg. It's just another long story on how Dichro was. I did the history of Dichro, how Dichro was very first made. I don't know if you know this, but Dichro is the reason the very first color TV was made. That's what gave us all the color was Dichro. The Dichro was created for the very first camera on the moon. And what would happen? You would take the camera up on the moon, you would shoot a photo into the atmosphere. Now, the light that came back and hit the Dichro, they were able with technique to understand with that light that hit the Dichro and that was absorbed or reflected, because there's a huge history of reflection. And it's actually a super technical thing. But they were able to tell what kind of elements were in that atmosphere from what the light was left on the Dichro.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so Dichro is a super really science and technology thing that really ended up in glass one day in the 1990s on accident, that gave us this cool effect and brought glass to another level for some people. But yeah.
And for the people out there, Dichro, that is basically when they put glass in a vacuum or something in a vacuum and adhere metal to it atom by atom, right? Or
they actually, what they do is they have a sheet or a few sheets. They put it in, yes, a chamber like you're describing. It has a small laser in there and it hits an element like zirconium. I took a Dichro class, and my teacher that I was talking about earlier, who helped inspire me, Dennis Schmidt, was one of the very first Dichro art application businesses in the United States, along with CBS. And what you do is you actually literally hit the element and it vaporizes it, and the vapors go in the chamber and they land on a sheet of glass. Now the actual chamber is only about 400 degrees, and so the actual vapors aren't bonded to the glass, and that's why that's this old tale of people like, oh, I keep burning out the Dichro. Usually that's because they either didn't heat it up in the kiln and adhere it, which I don't recommend, but you actually heat up the window side and then you do a small flame on the Dichro side and you see a crystallization on the Dichro. You can see it crystallize and kind of have these fractures. And that's the application process for the bonding of the agents, the vapor and the glass. Just like when you heat and you're melting it on the torch, you have to have it at 1050 or so for two pieces of glass to melt and bond together. And so, yeah, it's just another science thing. And another thing that I've, done some cool writings on and interviews on just in Dichro. And once again, I really did help start, the process of putting all these people who have Dichro shades right now on their face from Philips. I was the guy that got them going on that to do that. I never got anything out of it, but I did it because I had cancer underneath my lens. I had cancer from blowing glass, probably. I had a little cancer right here, and it was right underneath my eye. And so that inspired me to learn and figure out that, initially, if I was in the desert, I said to myself, and I was wicked, and it was 120 degrees out, would I want to be behind a window pane or a mirror? Would I want to be like the Air Force, like snow skiers, like people who travel to Mars, all people who study radiology? Why do they have a dichroic filter on their face and we don't? Why? Because the glass people, we don't have a union. We don't have regulations on stuff. And so they do in other industries because they don't have a machine that makes every single product.
Right. That's crazy. What's your favorite color to work with?
My favorite color, I really like rust red. It's a devil kind. Yeah, it's like this devil kind of color. And I'm kind of old school. I really like caramel and butterscotch. I know it sounds like, oh, those are the first colors, some of the first colors that came out, but they just have this organic pottery look to them. Mm-hmm. And so my brother's a potter. And so, yeah, rust red and caramel still to this day. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love transparent colors, but, I want to give a shout out to North Star Glass, who put up $10,000 for me to do my first book. That's how much they believed in me. And so I forgot to say that, but, it's people like Abe Fleshman and, some other companies that really believed in me to be able to do that was just a miracle. So, yeah, I love North Star Glass. And I also really like Boro Batch, another company who's really, put in and helped me out, AVR Imagery that work with Boro Batch.
Yeah. Those are both great color companies. North Star, they've been around for forever. And and then Ross with AVR, he's been in the game forever. So it was really neat for them to start making color and everything as well.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it. And so I was contracted actually by Ross to make all their commercials for every borosilicate color. I've been making shot glasses that are they're called Mohai Tribe. Yeah. I have a line called the Mohai Tribe. Yeah. So I'm making all of those in different colors. And it's just been this really cool thing for me to be able to do that for Ross, because he's actually one of the first, guys that I met in glass that really always believed in the Mazet brothers. And he's been sponsoring us for over a decade.
Wow. Hats off
Yeah.
to them there at ABR.
Mhm.
What color do you not like?
I'm not really, I don't think there's a color that I don't like. I'm kind of one of those, the same with people. Every color is its own individual kind of thing, and I sincerely mean that. As far as I tell people, because this glass thing, and with the times that we're having now, I feel like that you could say the wrong thing to someone and they take it super negative. And so I always tell people, like, look at all the colors on my bench. They mean a lot to me, and they're just all of them have something to give and something that I actually enjoy about them. Now, there might be colors that I don't like that was part of the process of, like, either Alchemy or North Star that made a color, and it was just a bad batch or something that it was a trial and error thing. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah, glass needs
I don't have one that I don't like.
Yeah, I like that. You'll find a technique or a use for that particular color.
Right.
What do you consider to be the most challenging piece that you've ever made?
Probably the most challenging piece that I ever made. One time I made a sculpture that was probably about, I'd say it's about 18 inches tall. It was a Mayan god with all kinds of body armor. He had a dichroic stomach, an image that was the Mayan calendar. And I put it, and it was all blown. And then the bottom was 13 crystal skulls. And yeah, it was just something that I spent a lot of time on. And it was probably the most challenging piece that I've ever. I wish that that's actually the future of me. In my, I'm 45 years old. I'm almost 50, so I'm going to be, I guess you could call it semi-retiring even in the next year. I've done really good in glass, and I've made it, and I'm getting ready, finish paying off my house, and I've got everything that I want, and so I'm going to try to start doing more media, and so and making things that are more challenging instead of what I've had to do in the last 25 years, which was kind of produce things so that I could pay all my stuff. And now that I've got a lot of things caught up, and I'm in that position now where I get to make, and I've always said this, God, it's going to be great when I can make whatever I want. Now I've made whatever I wanted to pretty much my whole life, but I always had and got stuck into making things because I made a big, project or a huge amount of something, and then people would constantly order them. So I kind of put myself into that own situation of staying the same and making that thing that I just made and just kind of doing it over and over. And I feel like through the years I've gotten stuck ruts, and I'm trying to lift myself out of this rut. And in the next 3 months, you'll definitely see me, blowing glass with Hugh Sheen and different artists out there that I've been wanting to collaborate with a long time, and I'm going to be challenging myself. It's actually a goal of mine right now. So that's going to be something in the future that I really look forward to.
So a lot of collabs. Do you collab often then? I know you said rigs you'll collab with. You'll have somebody else help with the rig, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of parts to make stuff.
Yeah. Right now I'm collabing with Zongbong. So that's kind of a cool thing. They're a classic, like, OG company. And OG. I've done collabs with Bob Snodgrass. My one thing I always collab with my brothers on a daily basis. And I've collabed with a bunch of different people through the years. I wouldn't say I'm as big as collabor as a lot of these guys. I mean, I've collabed with Mente, just all Big Tom, a bunch of guys, but I really want to like seek that out a little bit more. And my goal is to really collab with people on shot glass and decanter sets and sets of like, we do some shot glasses, we do the oil rig, we do the dabber, and it's really based more around the shot glass and having these cool glass sets for people.
I love it. Hell yeah. Yeah. So what's the most amount of time you put into a single piece? I'm assuming it was that 18-inch Mayan guy you had.
Yeah, that was definitely one. You know what I tell people? I see a lot of people, they're collabing on a piece in glass, and I'd see work like 20, 30. And so my biggest collaboration was my book. You know, I collabed with 85 artists. And I didn't mention this in my book. It's the coolest thing I ever made in glass was my book. It's an American story. There's 85 artists. You can ask every artist in there. Most of them had never made a shot glass before. In fact, I own the whole set that's in the book. It's the number one shot glass. Yeah, it's the number one shot glass collection ever put together in the history of man. My potential goal is to actually sell it. I've been in negotiations with Jack Daniels for quite some time. The number one trophy set for any distillery. In fact, I'm the one that came up with having a set for a distillery for the drinking industry. There's all kinds of trophies for the cannabis industry in head shops, cannabis growers. They all have a $50,000 and $80,000 banjo. I'm offering the number one set to a distillery. I'm going to sell it eventually someday, not because I want the money, but because I want to help the glass industry out. Like the very first Firefly shot glasses in there. You got shot glasses from Robert Mickelson, Mylan Townsend, Bob Snodgrass, Daniel Benway, John Bridges. It just goes on and on and on.
You fucking rock, Eli.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So this is it. And it really is. I mean, it's just an overload of Mike Gannan, Bo Barrett. I mean, there's Rocco, and this guy Swanee, one of my favorite glasses in there. But yeah, I mean I've got Kiva Ford in here.
Wow.
I've got so many good ones. Darby, Stephen Bamey. There's Big Tom. But yeah, I mean it's literally just a really great book. It's probably, I'm thinking maybe the number one, it might be the number one glass. It could be the number one. I hate to say that, but it might be one of the number one glass collections in the world.
Right. You got 85 crazy big artists ranging from 25 probably plus years experience there. I don't know. I don't know who else could have accumulated. Maybe a museum, but they don't have what. God, man, you fucking nailed it. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool. I really am hoping to house it. The reason I want to sell it too is because I want to house it where it can be shown to the world,
right?
And that not just the shot glasses, but the story that I've articulated through information and research to really hit home. And I want them to make a documentary out of it. I want Netflix to come to me and say, hey, let's make a documentary off of this stuff. This is crazy. And I don't think they're going to steal it. In fact, a guy told me, don't worry about anybody stealing anything from you, Eli. Don't worry about anybody stealing your candy. You already ate it, and that was Paul Stankard. And so, yeah, anyways, it's just really cool set.
Wow. Have you ever competed in any events before?
I have. In fact, me and my brothers probably had won more money than any glass blower in the country, even within our first 10 years, winning like $40,000 to $50,000 in prizes. I beat Marble Slinger in 2004 for about 6 G's at the Eugene Glass School. I competed at the Eugene Glass School every year. I got second and third many times. I got People's Choice and won first place a few times. I won Tucson a few times, and I also got second and third there multiple times. But yeah, I mean, I also won the Glass Vegas, or not Glass Vegas, but the Glass Bead Expo. I won that, and I made a chess set. Me and my brother, we won that, and I've made a chess set in 2002, 2003. Me and my brother made Dr. Dre chess set. We made Howard Stern's chess set. We made stuff for Miley Cyrus, John Travolta, and Steven Spielberg owns 5 of my brother's marbles. And so I think those are big wins for us. I don't go around usually telling people this. In fact, nobody in the industry really even knows that I made those sets because I don't go around and brag about it. But I'm glad that I put that on here.
Yes.
Because I didn't graduate from college to go to these are my gratifying things that I did in my life.
And you nailed it. Like, you don't want to be like throwing it out there, but you should be so proud of that, because to make something out there that, the celebrity, they may or not be somebody or something, but they seen something and they had a lot of money to go anywhere to get that. And they chose you.
Right.
That's really cool, man. And a chess set is no joke. What is it? 13, 26. I mean, what is it? 40 pieces?
36 pieces.
36 pieces. That's a lot.
36 pieces. And so one year, me and my older brother, we made the very first monster chess set, and that one won. I still have it today because I didn't want to sell it. I have people offering me money for it, but I still have it. I don't want to sell it. I'm going to keep that one. It was me and my brother.
Yeah, it's special. That's cool. Do you consume cannabis yourself?
I did consume a lot of cannabis through the years. I think cannabis is actually really harmful for your throat when you're throwing down this hot smoke down your throat all the time. You can look at a car and a tailpipe and an old car. You can see all the holes in it and it getting eaten away. So I'm doing more of I've been taking the gummies, and I smoke weed now like it's a cigar. I try to bring it into my mouth and then blow it out. I don't let it travel down into my more. And I think this is great information for people to know, because my whole life, I thought that marijuana was so good for you. I thought that it actually also caused all these dreams. And it's true. Marijuana is good for you, but it's like mold. We eat penicillin, we eat cheese, but there's a lot of molds out there that they use for biological warfare. Stachybotrys, aspergillus, cladosporium, chaetonium, all these different molds that they used in the Iraq war. If you get enough Stachybotrys on you, it'll kill you. And so there's these good things about weed, but there's only one bad thing that I found, and that's the inhalation of putting it through your throat on your thyroid and on your lymph nodes and stuff. That's actually really bad for you. And so I never thought that I would come out and say that marijuana was bad for you ever. But I have results. I have reasons from results that I can. So yeah, I'm kind of on this mission to let more people know about that.
Yeah, I think, the reality is our lungs are made for fresh air, and anything you put in there that is hotter than fresh air or has garbage in it, it can't be. I mean, you might have desired effects, getting high or helping something out, but you're also going to have the negative. And I think there's everything in life, pros and cons, yins and yangs.
Yeah. The yin and the yin yang. I love to tell people this because I studied the yin yang. in China and in Asia, they say yin yang. So it's yin yang, and it's the oldest duality image, and I really like it, the black and white. And it's like we're talking about, like you just informed everybody. It's this super cool image that I see me in the future, the yin yang, just to show people really how we're all so much alike, but we're so different, kind of like we were talking about in glass earlier. And so you really hit it home when you said that, because I love the yin yang.
Hell yeah. I'd like to say, you mentioned what we can look forward in the future. So I gotta say, do you still find you have the same love and passion today as when you started 25 years ago?
I do. I have the same passion, and that's because I'm able to do, I shaped the glass and then it shaped me. And so now I'm learning I never thought I'd be a filmmaker. I never thought that and by the time I'm dead, I will make another multiple glass films. I have, me and a homie of mine, about 10 scripts that are already written in to make movies. And so I also probably, I'm working on another book, and so I'm working on another book, but it's more in general about my life and all kinds of research that I've done. I've touched a little bit on here on some of that, but it's all this stuff about glass. I don't want to give too much of it away because I'm still working on it. But yeah, and so, I don't know if you know this, and it's just another thing that, I don't really get a lot of credit for, but I'm the one that really started Glass Vegas. I worked for the people who actually ran the Glass Bead Expo, which was this old show for 40 years that had 250 classes, and they never made pipes there. I pushed them and pushed them and pushed them to let me make a pipe there. And then I was studying the industry. Age, which was an old glass show, would give me and my brothers a free booth, and I would go to all kinds of shows, and I would learn that all the promoters, we started calling them weasels. There was a lot of weasels running these glass shows, and they were actually stealing money from the glass industry. And we could go over this in depth.
You nailed it. Yeah,
we could go over this in depth on another interview. But I caught one glass show that stole $100,000 from glass blowers. And I can prove it, and I've got the information. There's a lot of people that know that. And so I literally called my friends at the Glass Bead Expo and inspired them. And I fucking drove it into the ground that they needed to start this glass show. It was me and my older brother who started Glass Vegas, and nobody really knows it because, once again, I don't go out there and brag about it, but this was a major accomplishment. And I want people to know that Glass Vegas, originally, I asked them to start and form a union, to form and to have a board of directors, which means I wanted ABR, North Star, Glasscraft, and a few other artists like Will Menzies, the Flow magazine, to sit on a board of directors so that we could make the decisions for these major shows, but they would still own the show and run it. It didn't quite happen that way, the way that I wanted. And that's just what happens when you give somebody an idea, which I've given people many ideas, and they've ran with them. Some of them have blatantly, it just happens. You've got to be careful because people will run with your idea and take it on their own. Glass Vegas has always been pretty good to me. But that being said, once again, the gratification, I started Glass Vegas so that I could take care of the industry of all of us. That was my goal behind it. It was to start almost like the welding industry, where there were regulations maybe and people who were concerned about us that weren't going to fuck us over. And I'll tell you what, you're in good hands with Glass Vegas.
100%. I've been doing the trade shows for about 15 years and whatnot. And this last Glass Vegas, I do vaporizers, so I never really fit in or whatever, just whatever. but I just went to this last one and I loved the way it was ran. I loved how it was. It was just the way I always dreamt it should be. And it was really awesome.
I gotta plug you in here because I was losing
the power.
Yeah, losing a little bit of power, which is fine. I'll get you set up right here.
Well, in reality, I think we're running towards the end of this interview. I would like to say, is there anything else you'd like to add to this? Any shots out or?
You know, I would. There's one thing that I'd like to say. I'm actually, you know, deeply involved with Champs too. Another great show, the OG show of the industry.
Yes.
And, you know, people would say through the years, and I was actually convinced too from other people, because all you are is what you know. And so if you don't know something, you don't know shit, and then you don't know. And so until it comes to you, but Champs has a lot of American glass. They have it's a different show where, not like Las Vegas, they're both great shows. And so what I'm saying is the cannabis involvement at Champs is so great because you get to learn about all kinds of cannabis equipment. You get to learn about growers. You get to learn about, you know, just so many things in the lotions, just everything in the cannabis industry, that this year I'm the judge at Champs. They gave my own shot glass area to run my own shot glass competition, the #1 shot glass competition in the world. I'll also be traveling to Atlantic City and Denver and all these other places where they're going to let me host the shot glass competition. I think that's pretty cool of Champs to say, hey, the guy that started Glass Vegas, we want him over at our show. So I'm going to be doing that. And I want everybody to stay in tune for the next years to come to help me start this real shot glass show that's in Las Vegas, where everybody can come around in Vegas and really see some of the biggest shot glass makers in the world. And so, I want to give a shout out to Champs for bringing me and my brothers aboard and taking care of us, you know, so I really appreciate them.
Hell yeah, man. That's really awesome. And what's the best places for us to follow you and see all your new stuff and see you?
So I make a lot of commercials, like I said, for all kinds of glass blowers. Plus I make all my own promotions. And so you can find that at Mazet at Yahoo. I mean, Eli Mazet on Instagram. And then I'm Eli Mazet on Facebook. And I also have a Facebook page called Glass Pod. And it's not really for a bunch of drama that's going on in the glass industry. It's geared towards people like you who want to do a glass article on something that they found, or they have some research, or maybe they want to give a tip to some newbies, or maybe a lesson. I don't really do like a lot of, I mean, it's okay to go live streaming on there, but sometimes people try to take over with live streaming on there. So I kind of cut that stuff out. So I really do regulate what's on there. But Glass Pod is a great thing for future education. And it's something that I just started building recently. It's new. I hope that everybody on here will go kind of check out Glass Pod. And maybe they'll be able to see my new article that I'm writing right now that's almost over, which is the history of the crystal ball. And the history of the crystal ball is a super fascinating story. And it goes back to locking in with our third eye when you look out to the crystal ball so that you can get your dreams a lot faster. That's how I did everything that I'm doing today. I have a crystal ball. It's no joke. This isn't a game. This is reality. And some of the most successful people that you know, they have crystal balls. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a real thing.
No, it doesn't sound crazy when you mention how we have the DMT crystals in your head and the energies and how it works. I do think that you bust your ass, and that's why you're who you are and have done so much. You're an ass buster as well as you're a dreamer. So I think those two, it's been awesome. I think
that really is what it takes to and I'm going to just tap into this real quick. One last thing is that, 3,000 years ago, the eye of Ra was, that's your third eye. When you say amen, you're actually giving homage to Amen Ra. And so
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, the real deal is you look at things in your life and you look at a light switch and it says on and off. I want to know where you came from. Where does the word on come from? It comes from the very first city of light. It was called King Solomon. And so King Solomon, on being the very first word to turn the light on. And so there's all these things in our lives that we're searching for, and we're searching in our soul, and you're trying to be the best person that you can be. You used to be somebody, and now you're somebody else. And that's what I've been trying to do, is to also look at my life, become a better person, to manifest. I've been manifesting. My mom taught me as a young child to manifest and dream. I didn't know that it was going to affect me as much as it did today. And I think people should really use their resources, use people. You only have so much energy. So use people to help get your information out there, and you become enlightened. A Buddhist monk would look at the sun to become enlightened and have enlightenment. The frequencies, your thoughts, what I'm saying are coming from the sun. And so the son of God, that's why you called your child your son, SON, SUN. Yeah, they're the same thing. It's the son of the universe, and it's something that you created, your son. And that's why there's a lot of sun gods out there. That in a short, I could go on for the next 3 weeks on this topic, but study a little bit of Buddhism. You don't have to become a Buddhist monk. You don't have to even become a Buddhist. You don't have to believe in it, but look at go YouTube it and change your life. Like mine was changed when I found Buddhism. And yeah, I enjoy just studying, and those little things, a lot of them that they teach for 3,000 glass blowers that actually traveled here from another planet and landed on this earth. The oldest glass blowers that I found were the Sumerians and the Anunnaki. And so they were glass blowers. In fact, they couldn't get here unless they had a microscope or a telescope, knowing our DNA, knowing our genetics, looking into the future 1,000 years. It's glass, and glass is who we are when you look into a mirror.
I love it. I don't know what else to say from that other than you blew my mind. It was a phenomenal end there. Like, I just can't believe, I'm only discovering who you are and what you've done.
Yeah.
I've seen your work. It's crazy. I really appreciate this opportunity that you've given me to get to know you here. All I can say is fucking wow. And thank you so much for this time, Eli. Like, fucking wow.
Hey, I really appreciate you, and everybody out there. Go to pipetownusa.com. Go to americanshotglass.com. You can watch the documentary on Bob Snodgrass, 16 glass blowers, at pipetownusa.com. We didn't really touch too much into pipetownusa.com, but that's what I'm learning. And this is a perfect experience and an explanation of who I am, is build content. My mentor says, if you've got 50 awesome stories a day that you can put out there, even on your page. So it's building content. It's not just what you make in glass. It's who you are and what you become, and all these other things that will make you the best glass blower in the world. Manifest to yourself like I did 20 years ago. I would say to myself over and over again, I want to be the most famous or the number one glass that ever walked this earth. And then I started to realize that I was asking for too much. And I said to myself, if I could just be the top 1,000, I would be super, super, super happy with that.
All right. So I knew I was getting deep with this guy, but wow, I had no clue how inspirational, how just amazing Eli is. You need to follow, you need to check out the shot classes. More importantly, go get a shot class program. It sounds like he's going to be slowing that production down a little bit, so it might be the right time. Want to throw it out there real quick too? We got some really cool programs called Elev8 Dolls, which to the Brand Ambassador Program as well as Elevate Veterans, 501c3. Both these programs help